The poster says, card subject to change, pal. Well, it doesn't actually say the pal bit, but that's how I imagine Vince McMahon breaking the news to me personally when a WWE pay-per-view match is cancelled. And then he kicks me out of bed and gives me $3 million to never talk about it. In a perfect sports entertainment world, every Super Show would go ahead exactly as planned, but this ain't no perfect world. Matches fans are desperately looking forward to, even world title main events, can go by the wayside for any number of bonkers reasons. I'm Adam Pacitti from Cultaholic Wrestling, and these are 10 cancelled WWE pay-per-view matches. Join us. Number 10, Brock Lesnar vs Jinder Mahal at Survivor Series 2017. The main event of the 2017 Survivor Series was supposed to be a champion versus champion showdown, pitting Universal Champion Brock Lesnar against WWE Champion Jinder Mahal. Brand supremacy and all that, brilliant. While a clash of two big boys like that certainly fit the chairman's MO, the bout was suddenly changed just 12 days before the event. On the November 7th edition of SmackDown, Jinder shockingly dropped the strap to AJ Styles on an episode of the show taped from Manchester, England. Though Jinder vs Lesnar would have been just fine, I'm sure, the prospect of the phenomenal one taking on the Beast Incarnate in a genuine dream match was a far juicier one. But just why did WWE hinder Jinder and make the abrupt switch after he'd held the title and been presented as a dominant force for so many months? Well, according to Dave Meltzer, 5 years after the fact, Brock simply didn't fancy working with Jinder, bringing his reign to a premature end and causing the original Survivor Series main event to be changed. Number 9, Chris Jericho vs The Undertaker at the Greatest Royal Rumble. A bizarre tale of a match getting cancelled and then the replacement match being cancelled in favour of the original match being rebooked. Ahead of the Greatest Royal Rumble, WWE's first show in Saudi Arabia, the company announced that The Undertaker would take on Rusev in a casket match, which was an intriguing combination on paper since the Bulgarian Brute and the Dead Man had never crossed paths before. Then, oddly, Rusev was taken out of the equation on Rusev Day of all days too, and replaced by Chris Jericho. This was not too long after Rusev had told TMZ Sports that Taker was past his prime, with both Rusev and Lana also saying that he would crush the Phenom. Well, as far as substitutes go, Jericho was a damn good one, especially since he and Taker had strangely never really crossed paths properly before either, at least not in a singles setting. But then, lo and behold, Y2J was taken out and Rusev was put back in. Reports suggested that Saudi officials had lobbied for Rusev's reinstatement, but Jericho believes that he was taken out because he informed Vince McMahon that he would be working an upcoming event for New Japan. Number 8, Trish Stratus vs Alexa Bliss at Evolution. The 2018 Evolution pay-per-view was a celebration of how far women's wrestling had come in WWE, featuring stars of the past, present and future competing on WWE's first and thus far only female-only show. The show's lineup certainly evolved in the weeks before the event, as two planned singles matches were cancelled and turned into a tag, only for the tag match to change as well. Alexa Bliss vs Trish Stratus and Lita vs Mickie James were originally booked for the event, the former a first-time intergenerational contest, the second a rekindling of a rivalry that had ended some 12 years prior. WWE decided to mix things up and book besties Stratus and Lita as a tag team against Bliss and James instead, providing a nice moment for the legends and an opportunity to rekindle Trish and Mickey's historic feud too. Sadly, just 2 days before the show, Alexa was taken out of the match and replaced by Alicia Fox after suffering yet another concussion at a live event. Alexa later described the situation as heartbreaking, and she still pines for a little Stratusfaction. Don't we all? Number 7, Finn Balor vs Bray Wyatt at TLC 2017. Alright, I've said it was Finn Balor vs Bray Wyatt that was supposed to take place at TLC 2017, but WWE themselves billed it as the Demon against Sister Abigail. The latest chapter in the saga between the Eater of Worlds and the Demon King was set to get seriously spooky at the pay-per-view, with Balor ready to unleash his alter ego and the world supposedly getting its first look at the fabled Abigail. In a segment to build the match, we'd gotten a glimpse of what that might look like, as Wyatt seemingly morphed into her before our very eyes. It was certainly an interesting concept, if nothing else, and fans were curious to see how it would all play out. But then, just a few days before the show, plans fell apart, as Wyatt, along with Roman Reigns, were medically disqualified from performing on it. Uncle Kurt Angle famously became a member of the Shield for a night, while SmackDown's AJ Styles filled in for Bray, setting up a first-time dream match between the former former New Japan standouts. Finn's feud with Wyatt was subsequently dropped, and I never got to see Sister Abigail outside of the 8,000 fan renders I've been sent since. Number 6, Kevin Nash vs CM Punk at Night of Champions 2011. The summer of Punk took a sharp left turn at SummerSlam 2011 when the straight-edge superstar relinquished the WWE title to a cashing-in Alberto Del Rio following a hit-and-run attack by a returning Kevin Nash. Nobody expected to see the former WWE champion come back, let alone get involved in the top program of the time, but it seemed like Nash was on a collision course with Punk. A couple of weeks later on Raw, and after a bit of snarky back and forth between the Second City Saint and Big Daddy Cool, the unlikely singles match was made for Night of Champions. But by the end of the night, Nash was out and COO Triple H was in. So, what the hell happened? Well, the man formerly known as Diesel was taking a blood thinner called Plavix at the time, which disqualified him from competing as per the WWE wellness policy. Nash himself later wondered whether WWE even wanted the feud and match to really happen, and also let it be known that he wasn't happy about the creative direction of it all anyway, which might explain why it was soon forgotten about and ended with no real payoff, as Kev segued into a feud with the game instead. Number 5, Becky Lynch vs Ronda Rousey at Survivor Series 2018. Ideally, you wouldn't want a huge pay-per-view match to be cancelled, especially not because of an injury you'd suffered, but Becky Lynch's removal from the 2018 Survivor Series was, in many ways, a blessing in disguise for her. The SmackDown Women's Champion was scheduled to take on Raw Women's Champion Ronda Rousey on the show, but the match was scrapped just days beforehand after the man was potatoed by Nia Jax during the interbrand melee on the go-home edition of Raw. It was a nasty injury, but the upshot was that Raw went off the air that night with the iconic image of a bleary-eyed Becky standing tall, blood covering her face. That visual did more for Lynch's burgeoning career than any match with Rowdy Ronda would have. And let's face it, Big Time Bex probably wasn't getting the W over the former UFC champion on the night, was she? Lynch missing out on the match with Rousey and being replaced by Charlotte Flair led to the three women colliding in the first all-female main event of WrestleMania, where the red-hot Becky prevailed in a winner-takes-all triple threat match for both women's titles. Number 4, Roman Reigns vs Goldberg at WrestleMania 36. One of the big matches scheduled for WrestleMania 36 was Goldberg defending his Universal title against Roman Reigns. The Battle of the Spears, the big dog against the man, a true clash of titans from two different eras, and then the world completely changed. COVID-19 threw Mania 36 into disarray, and really, it's amazing that there was even a showcase of the Immortals that year, be it one unlike any other before. Some match lineups were modified, while some bouts turned cinematic in order to overcome the lack of a live audience. One match, though, that was straight up cancelled was Reigns vs Goldberg. Sensibly putting his health first, Roman backed out in the 11th hour when word spread around that a member of the WWE crew had fallen ill with the suspected Rona. With his history battling leukemia and having a compromised immune system, Roman wasn't about to take any chances when so much about the virus was still unknown. Braun Strowman ended up replacing Reigns and winning the title on the night. The Tribal Chief finally squared off with Goldberg at Elimination Chamber 2022. Number 3, Rey Mysterio vs Alberto Del Rio at TLC 2010. When a pay-per-view match is cancelled or changed significantly just days before the event in question, there is ordinarily a pretty damn good reason for it. Injuries, illness, suspensions, or a significant creative shift are the usual suspects, and WWE will rarely just drop a match without at least trying to provide an explanation as to why. That wasn't the case at TLC 2010 though, where Rey Mysterio and Alberto Del Rio were set to have their first singles pay-per-view outing against one another in a chairs match before Vince McMahon said nah and took it off the card. Mysterio and Del Rio were not taken off the show itself, of course, with SmackDown general manager Teddy Long simply adding them to the World Heavyweight Championship TLC match between Edge and Kane on the SmackDown before. 4 men involved and Teddy Long didn't book a tag match? I hope somebody got fired for that blunder. Making it a 4-way certainly did make things a lot more exciting, but no actual reason was provided for the cancellation, and Rey and Alberto ALBERTO never did get their singles pay-per-view blow-off. Number 2, AJ Styles vs Daniel Bryan at Crown Jewel 2018. WWE's relationship with the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia has received condemnation from critics, fans, and even some of their very own wrestlers, owing to the country's sketchy human rights record and the belief that they're using WWE as a vehicle for sports washing their image. The relationship came under even more scrutiny following the killing of journalist Jamal Khashoggi, with politicians and those in the media questioning whether WWE should reconsider putting on the Crown Jewel event a month later, if not abandoning the business deal entirely. WWE, of course, didn't do either, citing contractual obligations, but some members of the roster decided that they wouldn't be making the trip over, including Daniel Bryan, who had been announced as the opponent of WWE champion AJ Styles for the show. D-Bry forewent a hefty payday and a marquee match after deciding to follow his moral compass. WWE did still have the match take place 3 days before Crown Jewel on an episode of SmackDown Live. The American Dragon lost, naturally, and Samoa Joe, who attacked both Bryan and Styles afterwards, ended up taking his place in Saudi. Number 1, Brock Lesnar vs Roman Reigns at Day 1. There are pay-per-view matches being cancelled. Then there are main event title matches needing a replacement challenger. And then there's your world title main event match being cancelled just hours before the debut of a brand new pay-per-view event when the champion tests positive for COVID. That is the situation WWE were faced with on New Year's Day 2022, when Universal Champion Roman Reigns saw that red line and was forced to withdraw from his defense against Brock Lesnar. It was a hell of a way to start the year and put WWE in an unenviable position, but the main concern was that the head of the table stayed healthy. Luckily for WWE, in the storyline, the Beast Incarnate was a free agent, and thus they could simply shift him over to Raw's multi-man WWE title match, making it a 5-way instead of a 4-way. And that match, he won, setting the wheels in motion for an eventual winner-takes-all match against Roman in the main event of WrestleMania 38. What must have felt like an absolute disaster in the moment actually turned out pretty alright in the end, and the good news is we've probably got another 10 Reigns vs Lesnar matches to look forward to in the future. Yay.